Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the newest edition of the AmiSights. I'm Ami, your host, along with my co-host, Lynn Ozer, aka SBA Queen. And today is a special treat because you got four multifunders on the call. You have our colleagues, Fran Miller and Nick Lasorsa on the phone, who are on our loan team. And today we're just going to have a chat about culture, life, work at Multifunding, some of our experiences, some of the highs and lows and everything that we've gone through together, and hopefully give you some insights into our work, our purpose and our mission and our vision here at Multifunding. So it's so excited to have you guys on. And why don't we start? I'm going to tell the story about Fran, and then we'll talk the story about Nick. So Fran joined just over 10 years ago. And when Fran joined, I was processing all the loans largely myself, except for one guy doing it on the side. I was petrified to give up control of anything. And Fran sat next to me by my side for probably close to a year, listening, absorbing, asking questions, taking notes, and slowly and surely he got it. And I went kicking and screaming and started to give up more and more control to Fran. And now he knows a hell of a lot more than me, is a lot smarter than me, a lot better at me, and I don't touch many loans anymore. And I think there's an important lesson in that for entrepreneurs. When I met Fran, I'm sorry, I'm sharing a story because I'm so proud of you. Fran was living at home. He had just graduated from college. He had a girlfriend. Soon he got engaged. They bought a house. They got married. He had one kid. Now he had his second most beautiful daughter. And this is really what the American story is all about. Nick joined us about a year ago, and for a good year or so, he sat at the desk listening to Fran and leading the story. And now that we've gotten all the important stuff over, let's dig in, and I'm done talking. Hi, guys.
Hey.
And I've never seen Nick blush, but I'm seeing him blushing now. Fran, share a little bit about some of the challenges
early on.
Or just tell us about your multifunding journal. I need to just shut up.
Yeah. There's a lot packed into that question. Multifunding as an organization has grown so much since I've been here in 10 years, right? When we initially started, our philosophy was, getting people back to banks, right? And bankability, this path to bankability. So there was a lot of restructuring short-term debt, right? Setting them on a better footing, right? So that they can maintain operations, grow, et cetera. And that was done largely probably on a much smaller loan scale, right? $100, $150, $200,000 transactions were the norm back then, right? And dealing with very small, businesses from a size standpoint. Now over time, that's really grown, right? We've become feel like a massive force within SBA, which we're obviously most known for. Deal size range and the type of projects we're doing are far more complex than they ever were, 10 years ago. And we've grown in terms of our capabilities as far as the deals and the complexity and the moving parts that we see on a day-to-day basis, right? So it has been a big learning experience, and we've dove 2 feet in at every opportunity to make changes and pivot and do this and that. So and that's not to say also during COVID, right, the education we were putting out, the Main Street lending program that folks didn't know about. So we've had a lot of instances where we've turned on a dime and have ultimately just tried to help small and medium-sized businesses and be a resource there. Myself, it's been interesting, as you mentioned, Ami, sort of being under your wing for such a long period of time. And it's shocking, right? Just in terms of getting in there without any finance knowledge, and it's a lot to cover, right? There's a lot of different moving pieces, a lot of banks and situations you're getting used to. But over time you find yourself getting into a pattern, right? And building that knowledge base is very important. I think it was helpful for me as I wasn't classically trained, right? It was kind of figure it out, and that's helped sort of mold me into what I am today. So I don't know if I covered it all, but that's the
Coming
quick
in coming in from the outside and meeting Fran after, I don't know, 7 years of doing this, it was really hard for me to believe that he didn't work in a bank as an SBA lender prior to becoming a loan consultant, broker, whatever we call ourselves, because Ami may have forgotten more than Fran knows at this point, but the amount of expertise that you have developed is extraordinary and remarkable, considering learning from various lenders too, I assume, coming up with knowing multiple credit boxes. And that's just, it's astounding to me. I mean, I can go to Fran about any kind of structure. The questions that he asks me are generally ones that I absolutely don't know the answer to. And to go to my phone a friend Rolodex, which makes me continue to learn and be a better lender too, because as he pointed out, the complexity of the deals that we're looking at are way different than when you started. And not just knowing SBA, but really understanding what's behind it. And it's ever changing. And the way that Fran has stayed on top of every single change, it's great to watch. And whenever I get a chance to talk about multi-funding to other banks that we're trying to bring in, I always talk about how Fran and some others have been here at multi-funding for so long, because normally brokers come and go, and they're very good at taking things and throwing them against the wall and seeing what sticks, and not really understanding why things work and why they don't. And your ability to put the best structure in place for the borrower's success is so admirable. And I have all the respect in the world for what you've taught yourself with Ami's help, of course.
Love it. Nick, tell us about your last year and change here. Well, tell us about it.
Okay, absolutely. So in 2020, I graduated from college with an accounting degree. It was a weird time because it was COVID. So I went on Indeed, started looking for jobs, and found myself in the mortgage industry. I was there for about 2 years, helping customers and clients, refinance debt through home equity loans and lines of credits. I was familiar with Multifunding and Ami, and I had the opportunity to join the team a year and a half ago. So far, it's been great. I've been working with Fran and learning from Fran. He's a great mentor to me. It's a little bit of a change. So kind of refinancing debt for residential customers, clients, and now I'm doing it on the business side, a much larger scale. So I've taken my time here to sit, listen to a lot of calls, listen in on CEOs and entrepreneurs, issues and how they want to grow and maintain growth. And so far, I've been learning a lot and trying to help other businesses.
I love it.
Is that cool?
Awesome. Let's talk, guys. Let's break away a little bit about lending and SBA, and let's talk a little bit about culture and building teams and delegation, and all those are hard topics. I've said about our culture here at Multifunding, and it's held true about 98% of the time, that peeps either last 6 months, or they never leave. Is that, what do you think? What do you think? And I think that's actually a great thing, but what do you think makes it that way? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's very true, right? I think there's a certain sort of hunger and appetite to be in the position that we're in, especially in this advisor role, and it can be the most rewarding job, you have, assuming you get over that proverbial hump, right? So I think I think it is absolutely true. Some folks, find themselves kind of in this position and it's not entirely what they had hoped for, whether that's, hey, I'd rather be just simply doing business development. I'd rather be, one, link in the chain, right, of a deal process, right? So we are very involved start to finish, so you have to have all the tools in your tool shed and be comfortable and sort of getting your hands dirty to a degree, right? And being in that position. And I think simply put, it's not for everybody. And there is certainly a capacity of individuals, that, you have to feel comfortable with, right? There's ebbs and flows of this business, as we know, and, some can ride that wave or others, don't enjoy that up and down, so, but again, I think at the end of the day, for myself personally, right? Once we got started, I knew this was a passion, right? This was something we cared a lot about, and sort of helping folks, along with sort of what we do on a day-to-day basis. There was nothing more rewarding, or for me, something that I enjoyed more, right? And then getting involved and, jumping right in. So.
I think it's interesting. I think that people, first of all, I think people, from thinking about Lynn, you're the only exception that has successfully made the transition from a big bank to us. Actually, we have one more, Julie, who's doing well.
Yeah, she is.
For the most part, it seems that, and this is no disrespect to anyone, but, and this is not all banks, but 97 or 98% of banks are highly bureaucratic, highly political, highly process oriented, and highly unimaginative, if that's two oxymorons. And I think it's exceedingly difficult for people who've grown up and lived in that culture to come to a 12 to 15 person company that ebbs and flows and moves and twists and is highly creative and brings their dogs to work and is totally apolitical. And I think that is a very hard transition for a lot of people to make.
And for me, it was the most refreshing transition ever. I can't understand why someone, if they had the opportunity, would not do this. Like I listened to what Fran just said, and I was always blessed that I loved what I did. And that's what kept me there. What I hated was all the stuff that went along with it. The most rewarding part of really helping people, watch their dreams unfold in front of them, and the gratitude that people would have for what we were able to accomplish together and put them into this special government lending program where they really could see their dreams come true. But when you're in a corporate environment, you're really restricted. And if you see a different way to do something, it's really hard to do. And I appreciate what Fran just said about, people who may not fit into the process here, because banks have finders, minders, and grinders. That's what they always used to call them. And the team at Multifunding, they are finders, minders, grinders, all in one, plus everything else. And there's a passion in everyone that works here. They just really want to help, and it's just energetic. I think everyone feeds off of everyone else's energy, and comes from the top. Ami, you certainly are not a dictator or what's the word I'm looking for? But anyway, your leadership style, is here, this is what you need to do, and go do it. And truly, you don't care if someone's on the moon if they do what they're supposed to do. And that's it. So you don't get that kind of treatment in a bureaucratic environment. And it's not small banks, it's every bank.
They're different. There are less than a handful of exceptions, but
Yeah, but not they
not
all
many.
have
Not many.
not many. And Nick, going from residential to mortgages to commercial, I always used to say to people, I mean, no offense, but residential mortgage is really a math equation. Commercial lending is an art. It is not a science. It's an art. Yes, you have a big step up, Nick, because you do have an accounting background and you understand a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. But, creating a structure that works, it's not a science. You need to have other tools to be able to use to give these people the solutions they're looking for.
Absolutely. I mean, back in my past life, it was pretty easy to come up with an equation to find DTI. So
Right.
your debt to now
Right.
today, I mean, I'm a storyteller. I have to understand the deal way more in depth and intimately. I have to come up with reasons of, why this thing is going to work and why it pencils. And then, it's not just the math on it's everything else. And I'm pretty grateful that I came from a company that had 300 plus people, and our goal was just to get as many loans done as possible. And here at Multifunding, we care for the best intentions of our borrowers and clients. So it's a little bit different. Instead of just trying to push the loan through, we're really trying to, we care, and we really want to make sure that the borrower has the best interest.
Let's flip subjects a little bit, guys. So, as all of you know, I'm deeply involved in EO, and in EO, not everybody. EOS, which is Entrepreneurial Operating System, is like religion to a lot of people, and this and that, and everyone talks about a visionary and an integrator, and they have all these models about how you build teams, and blah 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 blah. Maybe my philosophy is a little bit different, but I'm constantly trying to get myself fired. Okay. And I'm constantly encouraging people around me to get themselves fired too. And what I mean by that is giving up control and empowering people to do work that I think they could be better at than I'm at. So it always strikes me as I think about some of the pivotal moments in our growth. And one of them, I almost was how hard it was for me to give up control of my deals to Fran. I was petrified of it. And you probably remember this, Fran. I was like slowly, okay, he can collect the documents, but I got to be on the phone with the customer. The customer wants to talk to me, this, that, the other, and slowly. And then finally I just ripped off the Band-Aid, and you know what? It was all good. And suddenly I was freed and liberated to do a ton more work and have a lot more open time and flexibility to work on other things in the area. Ironically, or I think it's reality, over the last few years, I've been fighting with Fran to give up control too. and Fran has Nick working with him now, and another colleague, MC, who's actually works with our team from the Philippines. Tell us a little bit about that, Fran, watching me give up control to you and how you feel slowly giving up control to other people.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny back in the day. It was, kicking a lot back up to you, or, the borrower finding their way to wiggle an email direct to Ami or a call direct to Ami. And, obviously, especially someone that sort of commands a situation, right? That level of confidence does grow over time, right? In some cases, hey, as a young individual and not much, links in the chain yet, it just it just became a thing where you could tell the difference, right? But as that grew and grew and grew, right, I knew Ami needed to move past that. At some point you have to, let somebody kind of fly to that extent, or get thrown into the fire, right? And that's ultimately sort of what happened. And are you going to make small mistakes? Absolutely, right? Are you going to probably have that as a better learning curve, moving forward? Also, absolutely, right? So, things like that, little trips and falls, they happen, but it's a necessity to really grow the team and have somebody in that position that is then going to take the reins and again feel confident and sort of be in that trial and error session of, hey, how should I address this situation? Or, how can I be better at communicating because of this feedback that I received? And some of that is learning everyone's different style as well. So, I think in terms of me too, it's always been that case is, being so focused on I need to give a client the best experience, right? Which is still very, very, very important. Don't get me wrong. But, as we continue to grow and build out the team, somebody like Nick taking on more and more responsibilities at some point, right? I don't need to be looking over his shoulder, and that's probably how he's going to learn and progress and grow, to greater heights. So yeah, I think it's some of that. It's hard, I find myself jumping in probably still way too much as I need to on particular deals. But it's core within myself and you, I know as well. I mean, that we were, just trying to do everything in our power to set forth the best customer expectation and process and, ensure that these are big life-changing events, right? That, we're not taking a misstep, right? Which is, I think, part of always holding on very tightly to deals, but in some cases that isn't the most beneficial anyway for the team, for progress and moving ahead. So
it's totally it's a total tough balance, which it's one thing we're even struggling with now as we work to launch new products. Like, we are so freaking good at SBA 7A lending. I would dare say probably the best in the country or top of class in the country. We don't entirely know who all of our competitors are. And so when we start looking at new products or services, we get nervous because we're not quite as good at that, or we're not quite as knowledgeable as that. Or when we bring new team people in, same idea, are we quite as good or quite as knowledgeable? But at some point along the way, if we're going to grow our impact, we have to be willing to let some of that go. And it's not an easy transition. Our work is very stressful because we have so much on the line for our clients. And what I can say is we try keep laughing through it, because sometimes you want to blow your head up. And
yeah, when one of you guys, I don't remember who it was last week, suggested we have the craziest story of the day to share with everyone, between the banks and the brokers and the borrowers, and there's always something that's crazy. And everybody's tension is high when they're putting a deal together. So we always hear crazy stories. And it does keep you laughing.
it sure does, but it's
Yeah.
not always easy. And
Mm-mm.
we've also been through some highs and lows. So COVID was in a different way, a trying time for our team. we weren't worried about our survival per se, but we were worried about our responsibility to get useful, the correct, insightful information out to our community. And we managed to do that with the PPP and the idle stuff. And we learned the Main Street Lending Program. We didn't know anything about it, but we figured it out. We helped a lot of people through it. So sometimes you just got to buckle up and just try to figure something out that you don't know how to do. So
I remember on that token, I remember early days of COVID, sitting there and, we're sitting at home and I said, I'm going to have nothing to do this year, or, oh, now we're going to help a lot of people. And that flipped and flopped probably every other day. So, that was a time where there was a lot of angst initially. And am I going to have a job? Is the government even going to lend in this period of time? Nobody knew. Again, I think it's sort of a testament to what we were able to achieve within a very short period of time. It's just part of the Multifunding brand, right? And being able to do and go above and beyond, to provide education, provide content, provide details, that helped many small and medium-sized businesses survive. I still get calls today of, hey, I first heard about you guys in the pandemic. Your PPP webinars were invaluable, right? And they were a lifeline during that period of time. Something like that, it really makes you feel super, super good about, sort of what we represent, right? And again, it's just sort of the core of who we are. So
this podcast is not about selling multifunding, but I'm gonna break a rule today, and I'm gonna ask Nick, Lynn, and Fran, if a borrower is looking to borrow money or has a financing need, why should they call us? Nick.
Well, we have all of the resources and lender pool to help them given any industry. We also have the expertise to know how to build the story, put the borrower's best foot forward. I think we're a great shop, and people should definitely utilize our resources.
Awesome. Lynn, how about you?
The thing about multifunding is that we know lenders all over the country. So oftentimes borrowers have gone to different banks that they know where their deposit account is, and they've been unsuccessful at putting their deal together. Whereas, I've said this many times, the best lender for your deal may not be in your backyard, and people don't know how to navigate the national lending scene like we do. And we do have all the contacts that you need. And sometimes, the best advice is hold on, do this, do that. Like, we're able to keep their best interest in mind and say, this is why you're not able to get a loan today. Do this, this, and that, and come back and we'll help you. And, I just think that our approach, which is working on, the most successful path for any individual, is why they should be with us.
Fran, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, both of those were well put. I mean, again, I think the other piece of it is, many of these folks have not been through a commercial, loan, process, right? They've dealt with home loans, or they've dealt with this or that, and, what to expect, the steps that are necessary to be taken, how to prepare accordingly, right? Are sort of huge tools that we have available to us to set customer expectations and get out of, in front of certain challenges that we may see in a transaction. So sort of having somebody to outsource that work to understand what's to come in a process is just super important for these borrowers to feel sort of calm, at ease, as much as they can. Let's be honest, it's not without, bumps in a process overall, but having somebody that's going to advocate for them, be able to share and kind of sit down and talk outside the bank of, here's how we have to play this. Here's how we have to, strategize next steps, really just puts people in a position where they can feel like they have a trusted advisor at their beck and call, right? To float anything by, right? And feel like they're speaking confidence to us to make sure they're, always going to be in a position that's favorable for themselves and moving forward in a loan process.
Yeah, to touch on what Fran said, I mean, we've seen thousands of these loans, so we know how to navigate this system, this process very well.
Absolutely. And I've got a really cute dog. That's my reason you should come to Multifunding. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being on our show. And thank you for listening. It's always a treat to have you and to get to share some of my colleagues' wisdom with you today. So thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.